Okay, I'm going to do a little recording on the Soyuz. This is from the Making History DLC, and I got the basic craft files, courtesy of Admiral Andre from his YouTube channel. So thank you for the craft file. I made quite a few modifications to this to get it to fly MI flying preferences on how it separates and various things. We're just going to do we're going to go to orbit and then we're just going to come back down and do a little short video. To start with, I changed the parachutes because the Soyuz has a big single chute, and then it has rockets on the bottom of the capsule that land a split second before you land to soften the blow a little bit, because otherwise the parachute comes down too hard and you're in big trouble. I varied from the stock one because I could not, that was just too touchy for me, because you had to activate that engine like a split second before it touched down, and I just never could get that spot on. And especially if you landed in water, it was harder to judge, and then especially if you landed at night, forget about it. So I got rid of that whole thing. I still have the motors on the bottom after you jet and heat shield. I don't use them. I put a triple chute on there instead, so it's not going to be all the way Soyuz like. But I've never flown a craft like this before, so it was kind of a welcome addition for me to try something new. So I'm using MechJeb again. Go ahead and get rid of the menu. Try this guy out. One thing I don't care about, and I don't seem to be able to do anything about it, is when these four boosters separate. They separate very violently and tumble like crazy, which I do not like. But I have not been able to fix it. No matter how much I turn everything down on the separators, it doesn't change it. So I have to live with this. Turn this volume down a little bit. Okay, let's see where we're at here. Okay, we got a ways to go. See what I mean? Not how I really like it to happen, but as I said, I can't figure out how to make those things come off slow and smooth without tumbling. So it's going along. You can see how much fuel I got. It's going to separate again. Because there's a fairing here, you have to separate this with the hotkey, the fairing and the escape tower. So yeah, normally I would have already jettisoned that escape tower. I guess I could actually put that on a different hotkey. Right now this one is on the same one as the fairing. I mean, normally, well, we're at 30,000. Normally I probably would have already gotten rid of it. But I don't want to get rid of the fairing just yet, because we're not quite high enough yet. So we're going to let this guy separate first. These are a couple of changes I made on here on the way this stage is going to separate. Okay, now let's separate it. There we go. Now you can see there's my Soyuz craft. Turn the thrusters on to adjust that guy a little bit. There's my last stage. There's my antenna. Soyuz is for short trips. They're not for going to the moon. It's basically to go into orbit, play around, come back, or go up to a space station and dock. Come back and return. Go up to a space station and just leave it, let it hang out for a while. Getting ready for my orbit burn. Okay, we're in orbit. Okay, I could just bring her back down, or I could go dock at a space station. Let's go ahead and take a look at my map. Alright, let me think. Let's go take a look at a space station. Let's go look at number 1. Let me switch to it. I haven't shown one of these guys yet. I have 3 of them up here, and I built them all different from each other. This one, I believe, is the longest one that looks more like the space station. I mean, not exact, but it's more so. The other ones aren't quite as long. Now you can see I already have 2 Soyuz already docked up here in previous missions. You see, I'll bring it up here. I have 2 ginormous fuel tanks and mono tanks up here, because that's what I primarily use these for. You know, I'm all about visiting places, doing some crew transfers. If I needed to come up here and refuel, I could do that. That's why I put both of those big old tanks up here. I have the fuel tanks like similar to this on my other two also, just so I can dock these guys so you can see. They're probably both okay as far as just doing, because the only thing I'm going to be doing with them is doing a deorbit burn coming back in. So let's go ahead, what the hell, let's go ahead and dock to one of these so I can pick whichever one I want. And you know, it just depends what side I'm in. Let me just pick this one for the hell of it. Click control from here. Then when I go back out, return back to my craft. Let's see if I have enough fuel to get up to, yeah, I should. Okay, so we're gonna go switch back to him. Again, I'll be doing this the McJeb way. You know, like I mentioned before, it's just the way I fly. I would rather program everything in and let the computer do it. Since I selected a target, I haven't yet. Let me go back in here, and that was Space Station 1. So let me click, select target. Now I can go back. And go back to the rendezvous autopilot. And let's go ahead and engage it. This orbit's 100 kilometers. I'm going to be raising the orbit to 500 kilometers where my space stations are. I was lagging a little bit just now when I went up to that space station because it's pretty big, it's got a pretty high part count. Now I'm going to be adding to it. When I put this guy up there, it's probably really going to be lagging when I bring this guy. I've been working on my game volume. Last video I made, my game volume was too low. It was like making a video. Holy moly, it's been what an undertaking it's been to try to get it right. I have yet to get one right. What I call right. Meaning game and microphone volumes are in balance with each other. That's been the hardest thing for me. When I first started out, my microphone volume was way too low. So you'd have to turn the volume all the way up to hear me, and the game would drown me out. I've kind of worked on that a little bit, got my mic volume up, and then I went the other way where the game volume was just too low. You'd hear me, but you wouldn't hear all this, like you wouldn't be able to hear the thrusters fire. And I wanted to try to make the experience like right now. Hopefully you can hear those thrusters. Because I did adjust my game volume a little bit, and I'm still working on that, trying to get them, you know, close where you can hear the narration, but you can hear all the game sounds also. I made a real long video on a trip to the moon. I thought it was a good video, but that was my only complaint, is the game sounds were too low in it. So if you just wanted to listen to me talk, it was a good video, but if you wanted the volumes to be up a little bit where you experience the game sounds more, then I didn't do too well in that area. You can see my volume's raising now from that last burn I made. Now we're getting up here. Now we're just going to be doing some minor positioning burns to get me close. I'm closest Intercept course, planning to match velocities of closest approach. See if we can see this guy yet. See, I'm already starting to lag. It must mean I'm getting close. See, plus another thing is I've had this game on for a few hours now, and this is what happens. Like the longer you play it, there it is. And you can see that big pause. It was because the game picked up this guy. You know, my part count went through the roof. Once you get a part count like above 250, whoa, slow down, dude, slow down, whoa. You know, we're right by this guy. So those are my correction burns. The original craft had the spark motor in it, so I changed it out. Like I said, I took Admiral Andre's basic craft and then I modified it. And that's what everybody does, you know what I mean? You adjust the craft to your liking. I'm again thankful to him for providing me with this, so I didn't have to build this thing from scratch. All my other crafts I usually build from scratch. My Apollo and my transport craft that I made a video of, do all that from scratch. This is the only one I didn't do from scratch. I took his craft file and then I flew it a couple times, picked out some things I wanted to change, and then I kept bringing it back in the VAB, making adjustments to it till I finally got it how I liked it. And like I said, one of the things I did was change the parachutes, which took me away from how the Soyuz really is, but it made it just easier for me to fly and land. Okay, we're still making little tiny adjustments. See, my target's already selected. Or I should say I selected my target in the map, but the port is already selected by me previously going up there and clicking the port I wanted, and clicked on control from here. That way when I set my target, that's the port it's going to go to. So you can kind of do that beforehand. If you didn't do that, just select this target. I don't know how that works. I don't know if it just randomly selects, you know, a docking port if you have a bunch of them up there like I do. So I like to pick it beforehand. That way it helps me plan it a little bit too. I can look at my map and I say, okay, I want to come over here and choose this one. This might be my final burn here. You'll see this change up here when I'm right there. You go. So computer did its job to get me there. And then from now, and you can see I got some lag going on. Kind of not as bad as I was expecting. You know, as I said about the part count, I had a lot of fun building these space stations and putting them up. But when I got into the part count thing, I found out there was some trade-offs that you had to make. In fact, I've changed these space stations so many times. Let me go ahead and select the docking pilot and get this thing going. So you can see how it's lagging. See how it's going slow? That's why. But I would build the stations and I would get too rambunctious with them. Like when I built this one, it was bigger than this, and this is pretty big. And I had a lot of, you know, I like to put a lot of fine detail as you get up close. Let's go ahead and get close to it. And kind of see. This thing's got a lot of detail in it. See, there's my port I'm going to be coming into. See, when I move this around, You got a little bit, you know, thankfully there's not a whole bunch of movement in this game. You couldn't play a first-person shooter like this, but this is still playable. But anyway, you can see the detail in there, all the things that I put on there. And a lot of room for Kerbals. These guys take a lot of processing power on the computer side of it. The more of these you put in there, because they track the sun, so the game is always having to calculate these. So the more you put on, the more how it's going to affect your lag or the performance of your game. And like I said, I've changed them because I got so crazy with all three of them that I would come up here and it would be so laggy. It was like right on the verge of not being playable anymore, or you know, right at the verge for me, as I didn't like the feel. So I was finding I was having to make adjustments, taking some parts off, maybe putting some other ones on that weren't as complex, because every one of these pieces you put on adds to the part count. So when you start going crazy and you want it all detailed out, it's going to affect the part count, which is going to affect the performance. So it's kind of a trade-off. You try to make it as good looking as you can, as simple as you can, so you can keep the performance up. So this is about the limit right here. I mean, you know, each time I add a new spacecraft to this, it changes the performance. Like for example, when this guy was off, it had better performance, and when this guy was off, it had better performance. So each time I add one, it adds to the part count, so it makes the next time it comes up, this kind of, you know, performance taking a little bit of a nosedive. My other two stations aren't quite as long as this one. To be honest with you, this is probably the one I like the best because it mimics the space station the most, even though this is in no way exact to the ISS. There's people who do a lot better job with this than this one, as far as making it look as close as possible. I just wanted to resemble it. So I love it. I like to just come up here and check them out, just like I do with my bases. Now, as I mentioned in one of my other videos, I use the HyperEdit to put the bases up, but not these. I do the old-fashioned way. I plan it, I fly them out, all the pieces up separately, dock them all. Because it wouldn't be any really, the moon bases is okay because I can build crazy moon bases that I wouldn't be able to put up there, you know, with HyperEdit. Wouldn't be any fun to do these that way. These are more like a, you know, a genuine, you know, trying to duplicate the actual building of a space station. He's coming in. If I take my menu off, looks pretty badass. He's taking his time. Matter of fact, let's do this. Let's go back to this guy. Can't believe I didn't do this already. Alright, let me go up to this guy and let's turn on my docking cameras. I want those guys. If I'm not using this for guidance, I'll take off the data so we can see the picture. See, that looks cool. See, it just gives you as many, you know, angles, because the camera's not going to change. It's going to be at the angle that it's shooting from the ship it's on. See, that's kind of neat. And then, like I said, if you move your camera angle to the other side, there you can see my performance. Lag, I guess you could say. I mean, I don't know what the part count is on this thing. It's over 300, I know that. Especially with each time I add a new ship. And depending on your system, once you start getting around up at around 250, I mean, I've got up to 350. This may be up that high. And it just depends on your system. Some systems won't even play this good with this part count right here. I have a pretty decent system. It's actually already a few years old, so it's not top of the line, but it's still decent for me. I mean, I have a lot of games I play, and I can still play them all. I play 1080p. I don't play crazy resolution, so it still works. I mean, I still have a NVIDIA GTX 770. So it shows you, I'm quite a few generations behind what's out there now, but it's a 4 gigabyte card, 4 gigabytes of memory on it, so that helps quite a bit. Probably allows me to hang on to that card for a little while. If it was normally that generation only came out with a 2 gigabyte card, and if I only had that, it would be way worse. I probably would have had to replace the card already. But before, because it's a 4 gigabyte, it's helped me get the most usage I can. I can't play all my games at ultra high performance, max everything out. I used to be able to do that in the old days. I can't do it anymore. With all the new games that are out, but I can still play them on settings that are good enough for me on my monitor. So when that ceases to be, that's when I'm going to have to look around to replace, and by that time I'm probably going to want to replace more than just the video card. I'm running an Intel i7 3770K, which is quite a few generations old too, but it's still doing the job. Okay, he's all lined up and he's coming in. I did one of these on another space station, and the landing, the docking port was real close to one of these guys, and I actually bounced off of the docking port because this antenna was hitting one of the other ones as I was coming in, and I kept bouncing off, so I had to roll this a little bit. I had to back it out and roll it so I could miss that antenna. But here I got plenty of room. I don't have to worry about nothing. Nice and slow. Dock. Yeah, I just added to my part count. See, now I got another one up there, so I got 3 of these bad boys up there. My other space stations I have, different craft. I have some Soyuz. Excuse me. The Soyuz is a pretty recent addition for me. Normally I had Apollo craft docked to all of them and a couple other spacecraft that I've flown up there. These are the first time I've been using the Soyuz. I mean, what's a space station without having at least a Soyuz craft docked to it, right? That even today remains the workhorse. So there we are. We're cool. I'm just gonna leave that guy. I mean, I can now. So I can come up here later. I might dock another one, and then I might go take this guy home. I might take a couple Kerbals out of here, put them in there, and take them home. So nice to have a lot of options like that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and end the video, and later, dudes.